out. Not so much. Nick, what did you learn about our friend Sam Darnold?
Well, I learned a lot about Sam. I also learned a lot about you. This guy is unbelievable. During this same controversial morning meeting, our producers wanted to put something about pumpkin mode in the question. Well, I was like, no. I don't want that to be the question. I want your guys' answers to be the star.
I'm out for self.
And then he writes, struck midnight, PM, and then straight pumpkin mode. He must have said it 7 times before the show, before we got on camera.
I changed
So I don't know.
You could say pumpkin mode.
No, I mean,
the first thing is nail, say pumpkin mode with authority.
Nailed
it. Listen, he did though, and it was back-to-back games.
Yeah.
So it was the first 16 games of the year, and then the biggest game of his career, and then the next biggest game of his career, which actually was bigger than the previous. All of a sudden, you're seeing ghosts again. And I understand that it's very in vogue for certain media members, particularly maybe media members that played quarterback not as well as Sam Darnold, to be like, it's not the quarterback's fault. There's a long list of people whose fault it is before. The biggest culprit last night was Sam Darnold. Now, did the offensive line do him any favors? No. But were all of those sacks on the offensive line?
No.
Absolutely not.
Half of them were on him.
And Greg Rosenthal, listening to his great NFL Daily podcast, had this stat. I couldn't believe it. It's the most yards lost to sacks in playoff history.
Really?
82 yards.
Yep.
The most yards lost to sacks in any game, playoff or regular season, in the last decade. That's not, when you're taking 9-yard sack after 8-yard sack after 11-yard sack, that's not all your offensive line. That's also refusing to take the easy play, thinking you're going to be able to spin out of trouble, and all of it.
Yep.
And so, I said it, if you guys remember the show, it was either Thursday or Friday before week 18. I said one of the things I love about professional football is how unfair it can be. It's a small sample size sport. And 10 days ago, 10 days, Sam Darnold walked into a football game knowing, if I play great, we're going to have the 1 seed, and I'm going to have $100+ million guaranteed. And he played his worst game of the year, which then meant last night he walked into a game knowing the opposite. If I play terribly, everything that I've done this year is undone by these 2 games. And that's what happened. And there's a cruelty to that, but there's also almost a cleanliness of it because it's sports and just is what it is. So what we learned about Sam is he's still Sam. And that's who he is.
Yeah, I hate to say the same old Sam, because he had a great year.
Wasn't that one of your headlines once? It was
maybe.
Darn old Sam.
That might have been when he was really, we had real doubts about him.
It was all right.
But
darn old Sam.
When and you mentioned these last 2 games, the pressure was on. We said the Detroit game was the biggest of his career. This was his first playoff start. He only had a few really bad games this year. You know what another one of them was? Against the Jets.
Oh.
His former team, that not just a former team, but that drafted him, number 3. So I think all of that comes together. You saw him missing open receivers. You saw him holding the ball too much. And, of course, you saw him making costly turnovers that cost him the game. And, Nick, he cost himself, I hate to say it, even though I'm not like a Darnold fan, but he cost himself tens of millions of dollars at least. So yes, because remember, 2 weeks ago, I was saying, it's a no-brainer that Minnesota brings him back. 2 years, $80 million, 3 years, $100, like Baker, maybe a little more.
And I was saying, I didn't think given how he was playing, I didn't think he'd take that if he had kept it up.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about this. I don't want to talk about the money lost because, I don't want to I don't want to talk about that. That's, because that's like real stuff. I mean, the dude's already like a gajillionaire, multimillionaire. The money that he's already made just from his rookie deal, the money that he just made from just this one deal alone playing with Minnesota is already more money than 99.99999% of the world will make in their entire career. So, did he lose out potentially on that, private jet life, where you can just literally fly wherever you want forever and ever and ever? Probably, but he can still take a private jet, on a vacation. But anyway, so I don't want to talk about his money. But listen, I'm going to play a clip. I did this for Colin Cowherd as well. John Middlecoff, I'm going to play another clip now from John Middlecoff, a couple clips that are short clips that he said it best. And I really 100% agree with him. And I knew everyone was going to come out railing on Sam Darnold. And I actually shared my opinions on live because I streamed this game live, and which was a lot of fun. Definitely want to do that again. Thank you everyone who stopped by. It was really, really an awesome experience. So shout out to everyone that was involved with that. But I then that night I was up until literally like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and I came across John Middlecoff's podcast, which is definitely awesome. He has his own channel, as well as he will podcast with Colin Cowherd. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with him. But this is what he had to say, and I just thought it was spot on, 100% spot on.
But like in this individual game, that clearly wasn't going to work. And this is a league, and Belichick said it for decades. You're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. And he's the play caller. It's not like he's Tomlin over there, Mr. CEO. The offense is his baby. But pass play after pass play after pass play. It's like, Kevin, the score is not 30-3 right now. You are down a touchdown to an offense that hasn't been good in a month. Your defensive coordinator, now fell apart as the game went on, has been excellent all season. Take a deep breath. Slow the game down for the quarterback. That is your job. And he couldn't do it. And everyone, and I mean everyone, is going to take a massive dump on Sam Darnold. And like I said, he didn't just play like Joe Montana. He got worse as the game went on. But how is the coach going to get a pass? How are we just going to act like, yeah, the coach is doing a great job calling great plays. Meanwhile, there are 3 free rushers coming from the left and the right. But I get it. He's got a lot of friends in the media. This was the same guy that...
Okay, and now another clip real fast.
Why? Because you just run the ball, slow down the game. Instead, we're getting into an NFL blitz style, slinging around nonstop. And it's like, that's not going to work tonight. It's evident. My mother could see, like, hey, you keep calling these pass plays with your quarterback holding the ball a little long, you're going to get throttled. And what happened? Hey, another pass, whatever the long play call is. Sack. Call the play in, another sack. It's like, what are we doing? It was coaching malpractice. It really was. And you watch. Every former player, everyone on the Twitter streets, they're all going to blame Sam Darnold. No one's going to mention to Kevin O'Connell. If you watch that game and you think it was the play calling had nothing to do with it, I don't know. We're not watching the same game.
And yeah, I just think that's spot on. And then there's one more clip that I want to show you.
They set the tone in that game early and often. And if you're going to keep calling pass plays when you can't block their front, it's going to be a long night. Like, I'm sorry, you can't just put 9 sacks. It can't just all be on the quarterback. And even on the offensive line. Like, the coach bears responsibility to that, period, point blank, end of story.
Yeah. I mean, I just, when I saw that last night, it was like, it just really connected for me. And that's why he can say it better than I can ever will, and have so much more conviction with it. And because I knew this was going to happen with Sam, because I started seeing it in the comment section when we were going live and all of that. And again, I want to be very, very clear. I'm not trying to act like Sam Darnold actually played secretly this great game and all of that, but like, again, he was pressured a million times. Was he holding on to the ball a little bit long? Yes, but again, those things happen. Like those things are what happens in the context of a game. But like, and this is what I did with Justin Herbert. I defended Justin Herbert as well, and I actually still have these saved up here. I don't remember which ones they actually are. That was, let me see if I have the box score. Hold on. That's Patrick Mahomes. That's Patrick Mahomes' box score in the Super Bowl. And again, he had no O-line. So this is not me ripping Patrick Mahomes. This is actually me defending Patrick Mahomes in this moment. And I understand Patrick Mahomes is light years better than Sam Darnold. I'm not arguing that Sam Darnold is on Patrick Mahomes' level, okay? I'm not arguing that at all. But this was, Patrick Mahomes suffered when he was being pressured nonstop. So what are you expecting Sam Darnold to be able to do? Like, that's my point. If Patrick Mahomes can't overcome it, and he's got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and at least a run game that was getting something going, and he still gets rocked 26 for 49, 270 yards, 5.5 average yards per attempt, 2 interceptions, and a rating of 52. Like, you're expecting, if Patrick Mahomes can't play a better game, why are you expecting Sam Darnold to? Like, that's the issue that I take. And so it's like, Sam Darnold, just Sam Darnold. Like, no, in this situation, no quarterback is going to be able to succeed except for maybe a hyper mobile quarterback. And I'd argue that that's who Patrick Mahomes was back then. Patrick Mahomes was more mobile back then. He definitely used his legs and his just physical body more than he does now. He's a lot more conservative, and it still was not enough. And Sam was 25 for 40, 245 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 77 rating, and 9 sacks. You know, that's a lot of sacks. But they were so pass happy. They were. I think the defense actually played pretty well, but the defense got torched at times too. Like, at the end of the day, they only gave up 20 points defensively, but like that opening drive, like, that was the difference. Just look at the opening drives. It was a masterclass of Sean McVay. Sean McVay was scheming guys wide open. Any quarterback in that situation would have succeeded. I could have succeeded in that situation on that opening drive. I mean, it was just wide open guys. I remember watching it again live, and I'm just like, oh man, these guys are just so insanely wide open. That's Sean McVay. That is Sean McVay. The Minnesota Vikings were not ready to play, and they were not ready to play against Detroit either. You know, they just weren't. So I just don't think it's fair. And to be like, oh, well, he had 2 big games and he couldn't play in those big games. Against the Green Bay Packers, that was a huge game too. And he stepped up and balled out. He put the Minnesota Vikings on his shoulders. He was unable to do that against the Detroit Lions. And I said going into this game, and I don't think I emphasized this enough in my first things first Minnesota Vikings game, and I'm a little bummed that I didn't, because I did in the comment section. But I said, you know, going into this game, it was a conversation that I had with Travis O'Shea. We were talking about the playoffs in this game, and I was like, I think this is going to be like a coaching duel. Like, this is, you know, so this is all on Kevin O'Connell, right? I'm really excited to see what does Kevin O'Connell have in store for this game, because he saw what happened in Detroit. I'm really fascinated to see what are his answers for this, because you assume the Rams defense is going to take a similar approach as the Detroit Lions. And so what is Kevin O'Connell going to do? And the answer was nothing. And I found that shocking. I think Kevin O'Connell's a great coach. I didn't play the rest of it, but John Middlecoff goes off to kind of pretty much rip Kevin O'Connell and say Kevin O'Connell's not as great of a coach as people think he is, you know, and he talks about how, you know, Shanahan was able to win with Jimmy Garoppolo, you know, all this type of stuff. I think Kevin O'Connell is a high-level coach. I do. I think Sean McVay is definitely a better coach. I think Sean McVay is probably arguably the second best coach under Andy Reid at this point. And you can see the difference. You can see how the Rams were ready to play. They were ready to play. They were so engaged on the field, off this, you know, on the sideline, which is why, you know, I called out the Philadelphia Eagles and AJ Brown, because look how connected that Rams team was, and how connected they were. Like, that's what you want to see in the playoffs. That's what you want to see. And the Vikings did not have that against the Lions, and they did not have that against the Rams. And you don't just put that all on Sam Darnold. You just don't. There was just nowhere for him to go. So we can all make jokes, say, oh, he's a pumpkin seeing ghosts. I disagree with that. I really do. Again, I'm not trying to make the argument that Sam Darnold is secretly a top 3 quarterback. I'm not out here saying, hey, man, I'd rather have Sam Darnold over Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. That's not what I'm saying. And a couple bad games at the end of the season don't invalidate a great season. That's not the way this works. It's just not. And so I think Kevin O'Connell, deserves a tremendous amount of blame. And again, this box score, I mean, it really does highlight it. Again, I understand Patrick Mahomes has won Super Bowls. I get it. He's amazing. He is an all-time great. Patrick Mahomes is unbelievable. And that O-line for them was garbage. And look at this box score. Look what he had. He had a lower rating than Sam Darnold. And someone said, when I made that comparison with Justin Herbert, people said, oh my God, you're comparing a Super Bowl to a wild card game. That's ridiculous. And it's not, because it's both gotta have it games. It's both win or go home games. Obviously, the Super Bowl is more intense, obviously. but it's still playoffs. It's still, you got to have it. It's still happening at an incredibly high physical, rate. And again, if the Patrick Mahomes could not overcome this and even put even a semblance of a decent game, I'm just not going to expect Sam Darnold to do that. And so please point to me what quarterback is able to succeed when you're being pressured like 26 times, sacked 9, no one's getting open, and when they are open, you're already, it's just already suffocating. Like, I just don't know what quarterbacks are really able to succeed at. I think at best right now, you can make the argument Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, because they are still right now in their physical prime in terms of like their ability to break through tackles and run and speed. I would argue that Patrick Mahomes is not so much, because he keeps getting bagged up now, like, and he knows it, and that's why he's, pulled back on taking the hits and using his legs. He's obviously so great and brilliant and can, doesn't need that to be a foundational part of his game as much as, say, maybe a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. But, in terms of that, I just don't know. Which is why it's a shame. I wish we can kind of see the Rams versus the Commanders play this next round, because I'd love to see like them try to get after the blitz and get after Jaden Daniels. I assume they're going to maybe try to do it to Jalen Hurts, and it's going to be fascinating to see how the Philadelphia Eagles handle it as well. But I mean, I don't know. There was other things that the Minnesota Vikings could have done to support this offense and Sam Darnold, and they just fundamentally did not. And I'm just glad that John Middlecoff really just put it just as clear and as direct. And he is no thrills. He's not a hot take artist. He is just a pure football bro. And he's just like, this is it, man. This is the way I see it. I'm not mincing words about it. I'm just going off on it. I got no ulterior motives. I got no inside friends who I'm trying to defend or this or that. Like, I'm just a guy who's talking football with Colin Cowherd. Like, that's who I am. And so, I really encourage you to listen to his whole take on the game as well. And, if you disagree with him, I would still, I would encourage you to just, think about what I said, what he said, more importantly, what he said. He knows way more than me, before you just jump on and say, Sam Darnold's a pumpkin, Sam Darnold's a pumpkin, Sam Darnold's a pumpkin. But Minnesota Vikings fans, I'm sorry this is how your season unfolded. A lot of Minnesota Vikings fans were saying to me, Kevin O'Connell's a problem, Kevin O'Connell's a problem. And I was like, no, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. I don't think he's a problem, because I think this season was awesome, and I think what he's been able to do is great. I do wonder if maybe in some instances he gives up play calling, if that, if he truly is, a special, quarterback whisperer and has really built an awesome culture in Minnesota. But if he is, too pass happy, and if you do kind of have some more collaborations with an OC, if that can kind of maybe rectify that or correct that, because even the run game I think was really lazy when they were handing the ball off. It really is. It's just like, we're handing the ball off because I know we have to, because we can't pass 100 times, and so it wasn't really intentional. And I'm always hyper aware of the intentionality of certain teams, whether it's an individual player, whether it's a game plan, whatever it is. And you can just see that it's just kind of like, well, we got to hand the ball off just so we can throw the ball more. And it's just like, that's not going to be good enough. That's good enough in the regular season. That's good enough in a week 7 game at 1:00, on a Sunday. It's not good enough in the playoffs. And it clearly was not good enough here. And it's funny, as he says, clearly didn't play good enough the last couple weeks. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings? Do you think Sam went into pumpkin mode? Do you think we learned anything about Sam? Or, how do you think this all kind of, how do you think we got here ultimately? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.